I've been in practice for a long time, 25 plus years, and I find it very, very interesting, all the different ways that people look at, quote, holistic medicine, nutritional medicine, whatever. If you ask 1,000 people walking down the street in any city, any major city, and you just stop them as they walk down the street, and you say, I just have a quick question for you. From what you've learned, wherever, radio, TV, anything, how much are physicians taught about nutrition? Almost every one of them will say, well, everything I've read, physicians aren't taught anything about nutrition. That's still correct today. There's almost no nutritional education of whatever for any kind of medical school in pretty much the entire United States. And yet, massive numbers of people will ask their doctor a nutritional question and then do what the doctor says. And I'm sorry, but you wouldn't hire a plumber to do your taxes because it's the wrong professional. And people keep on looking at the wrong professional all the time when it comes to medicine. We have probably the best emergency medicine in the world, in the United States. If I break a bone, if I fell off a roof, if a car hit me, I would probably choose the United States. If there was anything else other than that, I would probably choose any of about 20 other countries, because we are currently 39th in infant mortality, and our healthcare, other than emergency medicine, is really pretty bad. And we aren't told that because, of course, that doesn't feel good. We don't get told those types of things. So people have often asked me, what do you specialize in, David? And I go, okay, you don't understand holistic medicine. Holistic medicine doesn't treat a symptom. If you're working in nutrition, and I don't care whether you're an herbologist, a naturopath, a nutritionist, a homeopath, if you practice German biological medicine, I'm trained in all four of those, you don't treat the symptom. You treat the person. You're trying to support their body's ability to heal what isn't going the way they would like it to go. And therefore, the idea of specialization has always gotten me upset. Why would I specialize? I'm not treating your symptom. I'm treating you. I'm helping bring your nutrients up to where they should be. I'm helping teach you which things you should expose yourself less to. I'm helping teach you what poisons in your environment that you might want to try to avoid. The number of things that can help your health improve in is endless. And therefore, there isn't any reason for specialization. So I have people that I work for with Parkinson's, a lot with cancer, many with diabetes, pick a neurological disease, all of them, heart disease. And one of the things that goes on in medicine, which is very well known by the doctor, but not by the patient, is that the vast majority of conditions out there, they don't know what causes. So if somebody goes in with Parkinson's or cancer, or a number of other different diseases, fibromyalgia, and says, doctor, I know you've diagnosed me with this, and 2 other doctors have agreed with you, and maybe I went to the Mayo Clinic and they agreed with you, but what caused it? Maybe knowing the cause might be helpful. Oh, we have no idea what caused it. And Parkinson's and cancer are 2 of the best examples. Well, we don't know what causes Parkinson's. We don't know what causes cancer. And let's just for a minute or two switch over to cancer, because it's so forceful in this area, because we're going to cover it for Parkinson's. So the doctor says, well, we don't know what causes cancer. And I lecture at medical conferences, so I get to see a lot of doctors. I have doctors as patients, I have doctors as students, and I have doctors in big auditoriums with 300 or 400 people where I'm one of the lecturers that they paid to fly in to lecture. And I'll say, so you don't know what causes cancer. Okay, doc, I got a question for you. What does the word carcinogenic mean? Well, it means cancer causing. Okay, good. You know that. And of course, I knew they knew that. How many pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides are listed by their manufacturer on the material safety data sheet that they're required to make available as carcinogenic? The doctor will say, well, I'm not a pesticides expert, but I know quite a few. Okay. All right, so we have quite a few pesticides, herbicides, fungicides that are listed by their manufacturer as being cancer-causing. How many solvents, benzene, turpentine, acetone, trifluoroethylene, trichloroethylene, chlorine in our drinking water, how many of those are listed by the chemical companies that manufacture them as being carcinogenic? Yeah, quite a few. Okay, good. That book behind you in your shelves that says PDR, which stands for Physician's Desk Reference. There are thousands of currently sold pharmaceutical drugs in there. How many of them in the PDR that they gave you a free copy of are listed by their manufacturer as being carcinogenic? I don't know, but hundreds. Very good. So you really need to stop telling your patients we don't know what causes cancer. What you should really say is, we know thousands of things that cause cancer, but I really don't know what caused yours. Okay, I accept that. I mean, let's be fair. The same is true of Parkinson's. There's been a whole bunch of research. They will find what they call clusters. There'll be a Parkinson's cluster somewhere. And they find out it's because of some particular pesticide or herbicide. So we know a lot of different things. And then there are others that are contributory to Parkinson's that they don't know yet. That's fine. One of the things that I love to hear, and I get to hear it a number of times a year, which is sort of fun, is somebody will either call me up or my wife, who's a massage therapist, and they'll say, did you see the article in the New York Times or in the Wall Street Journal or in the Los Angeles Times today where they just found out something that David taught us in his class 20 years ago? Yeah, that's right. That's how long before the general public, including the professionals, get taught things. Many of us often know them. And if you want to look at something interesting, I did it for my students and for my patients because they always tell me, you've helped my family so much. This person's better, that person's better, these symptoms are better, this has been arrested. But when I tell anybody else about them, they ask their doctor, which is asking your, accountant about what paint you should buy for your house. They ask their doctor about those nutrients, and the doctor says, oh, that's nonsense. The doctor's never read a single article in a single journal about the research done on that nutrient, but they still want to promote as though they know everything, which gets me angry. I don't mind people promoting things they know. I just remind them promoting things they don't know. And so they come to me and they say, so how can I maybe help open the minds of people I love to some of this other stuff which you've helped us with and which I mention, and they tell me I'm a nut, or their doctor tells me I'm a nut? And so I thought about that for hours and hours and hours a couple years ago. And I added a new button. It's not new anymore. It's been there now for a few years on my website. And the button is entitled In Search of Unknown Facts. Because these are things that lots of people know, but most people don't. And so now I tell them, now I have something for you. Go to my website. Click on the button that says In Search of Unknown Facts. Tell your friend to do that thinks you're a nut. And tell them when you get to that button, the first thing that comes up when you click on that button is a 28-minute recording of this guy that you know but they don't, named David Getoff. And tell them to just click on the play button and listen to the 28 minutes, and don't tell them anything about what I'm going to say on those 28 minutes. Just say, do me a favor. Click on that button, listen to the 28 minutes in the In Search of Unknown Facts button, and after you've done that, I want you to call me up and let me know, would you prefer to be in the 1% or the 99%? Because the 1% are the people that get told, yeah, you told me something 15 years ago that they just finally said in the paper. Or do you want to be the 99% that finds it out 15 years later and goes, wow, if I'd known that 15 years earlier, I might not have progressed this disease. I might not have gotten that disease. I might still have my eyes, whatever it is. And that's the way you open somebody's eyes because of that. And you could go there, listen to that, and be just interesting. You'll like what it is. So the idea is, what makes Parkinson's progress more rapidly? How can we reduce the symptoms, slow the progression with diet, nutrition, avoidance of triggers? Because all sorts of different triggers can do that. Some of you may know a couple of your triggers. Some of you may know for a fact that if I eat a certain food, my memory gets worse, my tremor gets worse, whatever it is that you use as a little monitor. And others may have no idea. You may be the same every day, and maybe one day you're worse, and you haven't yet determined what might be the reason that I'm worse this day. As we go over a bunch of things today, you'll have a bunch of new things to look at that you didn't look at before. And now, every time you have a day where anything is worse, you can go, okay, what were all those things that were possible that might be making me worse? Was one of those something I was exposed to or did or something over the last 72 hours? And if it was, write it down. Or have somebody else write it down. And see over the next month, 2 months, whatever, if you notice again that 3 or 4 times when you're worse for a day or two, again, you were exposed to that trigger, whatever it was, which we'll be going over a bunch of. Because anything you can do to reduce triggers or to reduce anything that we know is toxic or harmful to the neurological system would be beneficial, would be something that's good for you. This is a nerve issue, and anything you can do to reduce your exposure to neurotoxic, nerve toxic substances, and they aren't always substances, they can be something which you wouldn't call a substance, we'll get into that also, was beneficial for you. How much of the things that I'm going to go over today in the next, hour and 3/4, you are willing to do, that's up to you. That's always totally up to you. I have lots and lots of people. My best friend in the whole world, I'm on vacation today. I'm on vacation for a week, but I had this scheduled a long time ago, and when things are scheduled, I don't cancel them. My vacation, my best friend is David Bunn, and he's in the back of the room. He's an engineer in New York. And the number of times over all the years he's known me that he has tried to educate some people, some friends of his, with various different problems, cancer, tremors, all sorts of different things, to get them interested in things that they might be able to do to change that. What did you say in class yesterday? Probably 100, and none of them were interested? At least. I never stop. My wife says, why do you even bother? Very simple. Because I don't ever want somebody to call me up after, I don't know, let's say their spouse just died of cancer. And a friend of theirs took one of my courses or became a patient, and I reversed their spouse's cancer 10 years before, and they just found out about it, and they go, oh yeah, I would have sent you to somebody. And then somebody says, well, I know him. He treated somebody else in my family. Why didn't he say this? So I am a big mouth. I always say, I always talk, I always offer, even if I think the chance that somebody's going to listen and make changes is tiny, because I don't want to feel as though it's biting me in the back years later when somebody says, well, if you had told me that, I might have made those changes and maybe this wouldn't have happened. So I am going to say it. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. Go out to eat with a bunch of people and they go, oh, crud, we're going to eat with David and Linda. Darn, should we not order this? Should we not order that? Is it going to look? And so we sit down at the table and they look at me as they're looking at the menu. And I already know what they're thinking. And I go, please, let me bring down your stress level. I don't care what you eat and what you drink today. I will not make any comment, because I can give you a 100% guarantee nothing you put in your mouth is going to affect my health. So I offer, you decide what you want to use, and we will certainly have time for questions, which is very important. So our FDA, which, I've heard them called many different things that can't be said on. I go to a lot of nutrition conferences, medical conferences, dental conferences, because I'm on the faculty of the American College of Integrative Medicine and Dentistry. I was just coming back from New Jersey, because every time they have a new class, they fly me in to teach the dentists that want to go into naturopathy. They fly me in to teach them diet, eating, supplements, and nutrition. And so I'm used to all the different things we're required to say. But, they're up there, they're trying to do whatever it is they're trying to do. But this is just a standard disclaimer. You're not my patients. I'm not treating you. This presentation is not designed to tell you have to take anything. It's educational, and you decide what you want to do with it. Credentials do not prove adequate knowledge. That's something that people really don't understand. So, that lower little paragraph, please continue to work with your physician. Try to find one with adequate knowledge of nutrition and detoxification who's willing to continue to work with you, maybe while you're working with somebody else. Credentials do not show knowledge. So who is a qualified nutrition professional if you want to go look for one and add them in to the mix of what you're working with or who you're working with. So we have a huge problem in the United States. Credentials have nothing to do with ability. And you all know that, but you never thought about it. Credentials have a little bit to do with what the person was taught. It has nothing to do with what they remembered of what they were taught. And if what they were taught was wrong, but that was what was being taught, then it doesn't have anything to do with the ones that went out to gain further knowledge because they realized they wanted more knowledge. So I get exposed to lots of medical doctors because I lecture to them. And the better ones say, yeah, I went through medical school, got my MD or my DO, went out, started treating patients. These are the really good ones. And after 6 months to a year, I realized I'm not helping people get well. I'm helping suppress symptoms while their condition gets worse. That's not what I went to school for. That's not what I spent $100 or however many $1,000 to go to school for all these years and then intern the college. I went out to get people well. Many of them think that's all there is and keep doing it. And the others start looking. Some of them go through the association I'm a member of and become CCNs, board certified in clinical nutrition, and they find all sorts of things they can treat to get better instead of just making symptoms go away. But again, the worst and the best painters have the same license. The worst and the best medical professionals have the same license. The worst and the best nutrition professionals have the same license. The worst and the best attorneys have the same license. They might have all even graduated from the same medical school, in the same class. And one got out and said, this isn't all there is to know, and kept going, and one didn't. So when a doctor says, what do you mean nutrition? Where'd you get your MD? I can have patients that come into my office and they've been to 3 experts in the field of their condition in the last 2 months. And they come in, they go, David, I've got a question for you. I've been to 3 different experts. Different doctors sent me to each one of them saying they're the best in the county and no 2 are the same. So, you think you're at the best person, but 3 other different people would think they're at the best person. And the people are just a couple miles from each other. And they said no 2 wanted to treat me the same. I thought medicine was a science. No, medicine is not a science. You can have 3 different people that are treating the exact same condition and they all want to put you on a different protocol, a different program, different drugs. That's not science. We're doing the best we can. And the best we can has to do with our knowledge. And like Nancy said, I love knowledge. I'm a knowledge freak. I will spend $15,000 a year for 25 years in a row going to scientific conferences to hear stuff that maybe will get in print 10 years from now. Or maybe they're not going to write a book. They're just going to present their clinical evidence to the rest of us that are really interested. And it won't get out to the public. I want it. Because if it's not harmful, I can try it and see if it works. If it is harmful, I let the doctors do that. So which 2 of these occupations have almost no nutrition education and most of what they get is wrong? Physicians, MD and DOs, and registered dietitians. They are still being taught the same things. They are still being taught that a low-fat diet is good. They're still being taught that meats are bad. They're still being taught the wrong kinds of fats are the good ones and the wrong kinds of fats are the bad ones. And it's not going to change. Why is it not going to change? Because where the money comes from. So the medical schools, the dietetic schools, and I'm not saying all doctors are bad. I have some close friends that are doctors. I'm not saying all dietitians are bad. I've got a number of dietitians that have taken my program, and some of them have gone on to become CCNs, and they're now embarrassed about their RD training. There isn't any group in which you can say they're all bad. It's impossible. There are always people that are interested. But in general, they are still being taught incorrect information because their funding, for the most part, comes from the pharmaceutical companies and the big food industries. And those are not the groups that have the right information. Those are groups trying to send us in the wrong place. If you go to my website, davidgetoff.com is the easiest way to get you there. If you go to the area that says MP3 recordings, there's a recording I did on, I think I entitled it, Why RDs or registered dietitians should not be allowed to call themselves nutritionists. And you can listen to it. You'll get my information. I can't put all that into a short lecture here. So, like I said, their schools get funded by the opposition. So causal diseases and conditions versus symptom-based diseases and conditions. That's very, very important. So let's give some examples of known cause problems. Strep throat is being caused by a strep bacteria. MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus. We know what causes it. They're using something to try to kill a specific thing. Malaria, tuberculosis. We know what those organisms are. We know what the causes are. If you fall down and break your leg and somebody says, well, what's the cause of that? I fell down, I broke my leg. You know what the cause was. You fell off a ladder. So accidents, broken bones, damaged tissues and organs, any kind of bacterial, fungal, viral, or parasitic infection, there is a specific cause. You're not going to get it by ESP. You might have to do some tests to see which one it is. Usually the doctors don't do the tests. They'll just use a massive broad-spectrum antibiotic, hope it works. When it doesn't work, because often it doesn't, I have people come into my office, they're on their third antibiotic, and then I'll knock it out with a natural antibiotic. Oh yeah, I've already been on 2 different antibiotics, and they've done nothing, and I'm about to start on my third one. Be careful about the words you use. My father was a fanatic about making sure that the words you used were correct. What do you mean? The first 2 didn't do anything. Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. They killed every beneficial bacteria in your intestine, dropped your immune function by 50%. What they didn't do is kill what the doctor wanted them to kill. But don't say they didn't do anything. They did a lot of damage. Your body had to clear out these poisons, and they still didn't do what was desired. So anytime people have infections, always my recommendation is, if you're not about to die of it, see if you can coax your doctor, if he or she is willing, into running a test where they culture it, and the lab tests 5, 6, 8, 10 different antibacterial agents against it to see which one's going to work. So they then prescribe one that's going to work instead of killing your good guys and not killing the right one. Obviously, if it's a massive problem that they have to start addressing immediately, then they can't do that. But if it isn't, and it usually isn't, it's great to culture it and know you're going to use what works. Same thing with Lyme disease. We know what causes it. Borrelia burgdorferi spirochete, which is a parasite. Syphilis, AIDS, measles, flu, snakebite. We know what those things cause and what the result is. But let's look at the other side. So these are symptom-based labels. In other words, because of certain symptoms, they've given the condition a label. Parkinson's. You ask what caused your Parkinson's? Nobody's going to be able to tell you. Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. What causes that? Then, to me, it's sort of like a lie. I'd be very careful with the word lie. I used to use lie in my lectures many, many years ago. And at one point, I'm giving a lecture, and I said, don't get mad if your doctor's lying to you. They don't know any better. And I heard my dad in my mind go, that's not the right word. That's an incorrect use of the word lie, David. And I said, I take that back. You cannot lie unless you know what you are saying is incorrect. If you are totally convinced that what you just told somebody is correct, but you're wrong through ignorance, then you weren't lying. You might have been doing the best you could. It's not a lie. It's not going to help you. It might even hurt the person, but it isn't a lie. That's very different. So I am massively ignorant of aircraft mechanics. Not something I ever studied. Doctors are massively ignorant of nutrition. It's not something they ever studied. My only complaint is, then don't talk as though you know it and answer a question when you don't know the answer. Find somebody that you like and send them to that person. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. The word syndrome automatically means that the medical profession has no clue of what causes it. Syndrome is always a combination of symptoms, and if you have enough of those symptoms, it gets that name and syndrome at the end of it. So anything with syndrome is automatically of unknown origin. Most neurological conditions, even though we have lists, just like we do of cancer, of things which are neurotoxic, they kill the nerves, but we don't know what they're caused, and every single autoimmune disease. And yet if you ask a bunch of holistic practitioners, such as myself, who have quite a number of patients, who after working with them for a couple of years, their doctor says, I don't know what to do with you because you had fill in the blank, some neurological some autoimmune condition. I'll use lupus because I can think of a couple patients. And actually MS, I can think of a couple patients in that area. And you don't have it anymore. I ran the test to see how high certain numbers were, and you no longer have the condition that we have in your chart. And since it's an incurable condition, wrong, therefore you couldn't have had it to begin with. Medicine doesn't understand that the only incurable condition is death because, sorry, I don't believe in zombies. So death is incurable, but all the other conditions might be and have in sometimes some people become curable and certainly arrested. And they just say, oh, well, that's an anomaly. That's a spontaneous remission. Yeah, if it happened out of nowhere, I'll call it a spontaneous remission. But if they've been working with a nutrition professional and doing a lot of the things I'm going to be talking to you about, that wasn't a spontaneous remission. First of all, it wasn't spontaneous. Somebody worked on getting those benefits to try and help their condition. And as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of other people, all autoimmune conditions are caused by poisons in the body. All neurological conditions, unless you had an accident that severed a nerve, okay, that's different, otherwise are caused by poisons or things that aggressively hurt the nervous system. Well, gee, if we could walk into a Star Trek machine or something else, which we don't have, which would tell you all of the things that caused your condition. And there might be 3 or 4 people in here in which there might be a bunch of similarities. And 2 or 3 other people would be totally different. And somebody else, without them even knowing it, because of an occupation they had or a city they worked in, were exposed to some chemicals that they don't even know they're exposed to. And those are what caused their condition. But they're there. We just don't know which ones they are. So therefore, we have to avoid and remove as much as we can. And that takes some education. So when the causes are known, you can work to eradicate the cause. You can kill the bacteria or the fungus. You can operate on the broken bone to repair it. You can kill the parasites. In many cases, depending on what the particular poison is or snakebite, you might be able to antidote it. That's what you can do for the known ones, where we know what's going on. When the causes are unknown, you can't try to eliminate the cause or reduce it. You don't know what it is. So you're forced to do what medicine does. And, they don't have a choice. I'm not mad at them. They suppress the symptoms because that's what we are asking for. This symptom is undesirable. I don't like the way I feel. I don't like what's going on with my tremor. I don't like the way I'm having this problem. And if somebody has developed a drug that seems to be able to help that, even if the drug at the same time is causing 3 other things, well, but it's all we have. And that's a standard answer from a physician. If somebody says, this is what we'd like to put you on, and the person has looked up a couple of drugs before the appointment because they know from what they've been told that the doctor's probably going to want to put you on X, Y, or Z, and they looked them up and they looked at all the side effects. And they go, but doc, this has this and this and this side effect and that side effect. The doctor goes, but that's all we can do. And if you happen to get those side effects, we have some drugs to treat you for the side effects. Great, we bring in another poison. But that's all they can do. And they do what they've been trained to do. So we have all the symptom-suppressing drugs. The causes remain and continue. And so when somebody says, well, they're treating me, but the condition continues to get worse. Of course they continue to get worse. They're not doing anything to eliminate what caused it. Everything is still there. People get chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, and then in the vast majority of cancers, the cancer comes back. Almost everybody within 10 years, vast majority within 5 years. And they go, the cancer came back. Well, none of the things that brought your immune system down enough that you were going to get the cancer were ever addressed. Of course it's going to come back. So everything that we can learn of any of the things that might be part of the reasons for the condition, or even if they weren't what caused your condition, which we don't know, but we know they're nerve poisons. We want to add another nerve poison for a nerve condition? Of course not. So let's take a look. What do we know about causes of Parkinson's? So I grabbed one study. There are hundreds. And this is right directly out of study. Parkinson's disease, PD, is globally prevalent. It's a multifactorial disorder that occurs due to the interactions between genetics and environmental factors. Now, before I go any further, let's hit genetics. That's the new wave of the doctor saying it's not your fault. And that's not really right. Because unlike me, you don't go to conferences and listen to genetic scientists present. I do. And what they tell us is that the amount of risk coming from our genetics varies depending on you and the genetic predisposition between 5 and 8%, and occasionally as high as 12%, but that the vast majority is all diet and lifestyle. And then they go further, and to me this is the most important part. If you took a group of people, 200, 500, 1,000, it doesn't matter what the group was, and you ran a DNA test on all of them, and all the ones that had a genetic predisposition for a condition, it wouldn't matter what the condition is, so I'm not even going to say because it makes no difference. All the people that had this genetic predisposition, which according to the scientists means they're 5 to 8% or maybe as high as 12% more likely to get it, were brought into one group, and all the people that did not have this predisposition were brought into another group. And we took the ones that have this genetic predisposition and we divided them amongst, wouldn't matter how many, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 10, 15, nutrition professionals that really know what they're doing. Because I'm not the only one. That would be impossible. I can't be the only one. But there aren't a lot, because most people won't spend 15 grand a year keeping up to date on everything going on. I mean, I talk to people that are in this field, and I go, how many conferences have you attended in the last 5 years that are not paid for by a pharmaceutical company where they're trying to promote something? Independent scientific conferences. The answer I get most often is, I can't afford to do that. I'm busy seeing patients all day. Me? I go to between 5 and 8 a year. Yeah, it costs me $15,000. So what? It makes me better able to treat the people that come to see me. So, you get to decide how much you want to look at that. But if you take those that have the genetic predisposition and you divide them up among a bunch of people that understand nutrition correctly, what tests to run if you want to see if they're deficient in different minerals, trace minerals, nutrients, antioxidants, etc. What things to put them on to get their livers and kidneys working better so they can detox substance better. What foods to teach them to eat less of, and which foods to teach them to eat more of. What should they avoid, what should they eat more of? And they do it, because obviously it's up to you whether you can do it. But for my example, all of the people with this genetic predisposition are taught the correct things, the things that the general public will learn 20 years from now, and they all do them. According to the genetic scientists, that group is now significantly less likely to get the disease than the people that are still eating normally but don't have any risk factors. So diet and lifestyle is 80+% of what's going on, and the genes are under 12%. Diet and lifestyle is stronger. And that field is called the field of epigenetics. Epigenetics is how diet and lifestyle affects everything that's going on in your genes. And people will say, well, my doctor said he just ran this genetic test and this particular gene was turned partially off. This one was turned totally off. They're called singular nuclear polymorphisms, or SNPs. And if the doctor was standing in front of me, I might say, are you familiar with the field of epigenetics? Did you know from research, from studying this, that you could take a room full of people, run their DNA, and then you could have them all spend 20 minutes in the sun every other day for the next 3 days and rerun their DNA, and it's different because the sunlight, which is beneficial, has turned off some of the genes that were turned on, which was wrong, and on some of the ones that were wrong and are now turned off, or a vitamin or a nutrient. We can turn genes on and off. This is very well known. It's an entire gigantic field. It's not being told to the public. So the conclusion of this meta-analysis provided evidence that pesticide exposure is significantly associated with the risk of Parkinson's disease. We are an agricultural state, folks. There is pesticides everywhere. Doesn't matter whether you use them, they're there. They're all over the place. And herbicides, etc. The PMID number is the PubMed index, so that's so somebody can look up a specific thing. So our neurological system does not degrade or go haywire due to genetics. It's always caused by toxic substances, poisons, slowly destroying some of our nerves, which is progressive, unless we can find a way to reduce some of these things we're exposed to. So again, all neurotoxic chemicals may be a cause of Parkinson's. So the more we can stay away from, the better. Every one of us is different. Even identical twins are not exactly the same, and they've shown that. Plus, they've taken identical twins that left and moved to two different states and were treated differently and had different problems, and some of the things you would think they would both have didn't occur. This was actually done with a supplement at one point called Epicor, which I use in my practice, where they had identical twins where one twin worked at the Epicor factory. Epicor is a substance that modulates your immune system. And the other twin, worked in a normal place somewhere else. They were both diagnosed with MS. One of them got MS, and she told her sister that she had MS. So the sister went in for testing, got a brain scan, and, oh, yeah, I actually have it too. And then they watched them for the next 10 years. And the one that worked in the Epicor factory, because she was breathing in some of the spores of this Epicor because she was in the production side of the factory. And OSHA hadn't yet come in and said you have to put in ventilators and everything. So she was actually, without taking the supplement, was breathing in some of the substance. Her MS never progressed. Her sister was in a wheelchair. Identical twins. But lifestyle and environment can make a huge difference. We are all different. 100 people exposed to the same pathogen don't get it. If somebody had, let's say the flu, and they went into a room full of people and they French kissed everybody in the room, they will not all get the flu. That's a fact. Any doctor will tell you that. Because some of the immune systems can fight it off and some can't. We are all different. That's important that we know that we are all different. Poisons are poisons. Susceptibility varies. So here's just a couple of poisons that most of you will know most of. Roundup, malathion, DDT, chlorpyrifos. They're all neurotoxic. Every single one is neurotoxic. Every single one increases Parkinson's cases around the globe, as do thousands of other poisons. And so, if you hate bugs, but you hate neurological conditions worse, then you start using poisons if you can. You start using as little toxic or untoxic things as you can because you're trying to stop the progression of a nerve condition. The more you're exposed, the higher your risk, the faster the progression of the condition. So, some neurotoxic chemicals. Neurotoxic chemicals, which are also immune-suppressing poisons, most neurotoxic chemicals are also hurting your immune system, include chemicals in your bathroom and kitchen and cleaning products. And especially some of the really, really strong ones that are well known to be nerve poisons and immune suppressants. And that would be Clorox, or let's say chlorine, whatever it's in. Fluoride. So if somebody has a neuro condition or an immune condition, or is just my patient and wants to not get one, the first thing I have them do is make certain, darn certain, that they are not brushing their teeth with a fluoride-containing toothpaste, because fluoride has been shown to be a nerve poison, a cancer-causing agent, and all the research shows, all of it, hundreds of studies, that adding it to the water has never reduced tooth decay. And there are numerous books on it. Other countries have stopped fluoridating all over the place. We keep on putting in more because fluoride is a toxic waste byproduct of the chemicals industries. And so they need to get rid of it. And they found a way to convince us it was good for us and sell it and put it in the water supply. So I have anybody that works for me. If a patient working with me refuses to not use a fluoride-containing toothpaste, they're fired. You want my help and you're not going to listen to me? Sorry. I can understand people not want to be as strict in their diet. You decide how strict you want to be. Maybe they can't afford to get all the cleaning products that I want because maybe they cost more. But if you're going to be exposing yourself a couple times a day to a poison that causes what you want me to prevent, don't need you in my practice. And there are a lot of good non-fluoride toothpastes out there. Pesticides, herbicides in and around our homes. So anybody with a neurological condition, an immune condition, or maybe just doesn't want to get one as you get older. That would be just about everybody everywhere. should never have a pest company treating the inside or the outside of your house. Doesn't matter that it's the outside. You think that stuff doesn't vaporize and couldn't be analyzed by somebody? It comes right inside. It goes everywhere. I haven't had any kind of pesticide sprays in any of my homes for 25 years. If I'm going to kill ants, I'm going to kill the ants with a spray that's so non-toxic, I could spray it on a newborn, and it'll kill the ant in a way that wouldn't hurt us. There aren't too many that can do that, but those are the ones I'm going to use. So there's a lot more of those in the non-organic food. So in other words, pesticides, herbicides, etc., there's more of those in any non-organic foods. So if you're trying to avoid these, those people that can afford it, and I understand some people can't. I have people that come to me, they say, we saved up for 9 months for your initial consultation, because my initial consultation is $750. But you're in my office for 4 hours. Plus, you've filled out numerous forms. You've watched 3-hour DVD on healthy eating. You've sent me all sorts of stuff that I've gone over beforehand. So I've done a lot of work with you before that. So actually, I'm cheap as dirt, because those doctors that I know, and I know a couple, that actually have some knowledge of clinical nutrition. One of the doctors in San Diego is actually a clinical nutritionist. Also, I see him at the conferences. They'll give you an hour and a half of your time for a $3,000 initial intake, and they're not as up to it as I am. But they have MD after their name. Massively deceiving. I mean, I don't care what somebody has after their name. I care what they know. That's very, very important. Mercury is an extremely neurotoxic substance, and mercury is in all silver-colored dental fillings, which are called amalgams. If you went to Germany and you had a nerve issue or a cancer, and you went to one of the holistic clinics there, unlike the clinics here, they all have holistic dentists on staff. And your first stop is being sent to the dentist. The first thing they do, and I'm not yelling at you to do this, I'm just giving you information. The first thing they do is they're sent to the dentist, and after possibly helping their nutrition and maybe giving them some vitamins and herbs to get their body a little bit more able to handle what I'm about to tell you, any root canals they have are extracted, because there are bacteria living in the root canal sending the toxins into the body. And any silver fillings they have are going to be replaced, but they can't do that until they take a blood sample, send it into one of the labs. We have 2 labs in Colorado. I'm not sure which labs they use in Germany, to test your blood's reaction to every single chemical that's used in dentistry, so that when they take out the silver fillings, they don't put in something else that's also neurotoxic to your body. So you get to make sure that what gets put in isn't bad. I do things preventively. It's got to be 20 years ago that I had all of my silver fillings removed after getting that lab test done and having stuff put in which my body is okay with, because I don't want those conditions. Who would? Lead. Almost all red lipsticks in the United States have lead. Many hair dyes have lead, and we don't eat them. So therefore they're allowed to. Well, yeah, you do, because they immediately absorb through your skin. They immediately absorb through your lips. So that's one of the things we want to take a look at. We certainly don't want heavy metals. Poisons in all the tooth whitening products. I get people all the time asking me if I want to have my teeth whitened. Any particular process or any particular chemical or any particular dentist that you recommend? I go, so you want to know what I would say in response to whitening your teeth? Yes. How much do you care about your future health? Well, that's stupid. If I didn't care about my future health, David, I wouldn't be in your office. Okay, well then my answer is don't get your teeth whitened, because there aren't any non-toxic substances. Plus, they all work by aggressively bleaching the top layer, which is the layer that tries to help prevent it from getting stained. So you get your teeth whitened 2 times, and they will now get stained 3 times faster. You get them whitened 3 or 4 times, the dentist has you for the rest of your life, because they're going to stain so easily now because of what those whitening agents did that you're going to be in there all the time whitening them, as they're busy trying to push you into an immune condition or a neurological condition. Fluoride is in 95% of all toothpastes out there. I can give you the brands of the ones that don't have it in it. We have a number of sweeteners that have been proven to absolutely positively be nerve poisons and even cancer-causing agents. And the only reason they're out there is because they're not drugs. If aspartame had to go through the same testing that a drug did, it never would have gotten approved because they showed how much cancer and neurological issues it caused. So I never use any of those. And what's the purpose of aspartame, equal, NutraSweet, Crystolite, Splenda, sucralose? What's the purpose of an artificial sweetener? Artificial sweeteners only have two purposes. We can add a third to make money for the manufacturer. All right, we'll put that aside. The other two purposes are they are non-nutritive sweeteners and they don't contain sugar. So therefore, the diabetics who can't have sugar or are trying to not have sugar can have them to sweeten things because they don't have sugar. And the people that are trying to lose weight say, well, I can sweeten them because sugar has calories, and they don't. Well, they did two massive studies funded through the American Dietetics Association to be able to see how much additional weight the people would lose in the group that was on the artificial sweeteners, because they wanted to use that to help promote them. The only problem is both studies showed that there was no help whatsoever. Zero. And so you're just as well off using a sweetener that your body at least knows what to do with. It's not an alien molecule that was made up in a lab. And of course, there are much better kinds of sweeteners which don't have nutrition, which don't cause calories, but which are not artificial. And I go over all of those. There's a very important theory, 1 + 1 = 100. And we have something in science called the LD. LD is lethal dose. Anybody that studies toxicology, one of the first things they go over is the lethality, the deadly amount of some chemical. Everything has some amount that might kill you. Not every chemical, but most. So the LD is lethal dose. So if somebody has the LD1 for a substance, and very often when they're trying to get an approval for a pesticide, a drug, whatever, they have to find out how much of it would kill, let's say, 1% of all the mice or rats they expose it to see how toxic it is. And if it kills 1 out of 100, then they have found the LD1. So if 1 gram of something per kilogram of body weight will kill 1 out of 100 mice, then for mice, that's the LD1 dose. Well, it turns out that the LD1, which is going to kill 1 out of 100 or 10 out of 1,000, in certain instances, and this is an example of one because this is a published research study, they took the LD1 of lead and the LD1 of mercury. So that's the amount of lead that would kill 1 out of 100 mice and the amount of lead that would kill 1 out of 100 mice in lead and mercury, 2 different items. And we put those both together, and you might assume, well, now we're going to kill 2 mice instead, or maybe 3 or 4 because it's more toxic. No, it killed every single mouse. So the LD1 of mercury and LD1 of lead killed 100% of all the mice in the study. And every single pesticide, herbicide, and fungicide that we have on the market has never been studied in context with another one. And you can't buy a fruit or vegetable that has one. Everyone has many, and they've never been studied that way. So we don't even know how toxic they are. They're more toxic even than we think because they never get tested in combination. And for those of you, I think Nancy had it in your emails, this entire presentation is on the website, and you can download it and get it. So you can have all these slides and not have to worry about, I want to record something that was on one of them. All right, inflammation speeds up degeneration. That's been known for a long, long time, and doctors know that. And we also know that many, many things are caused by inflammation. So it's probably the word that I've seen over and over again on magazines. So like Newsweek and Time and all these. Over the last 10 years, every single one of that has 1 or 2 issues where the front page, the cover, has said, inflammation, the cause of everything. Inflammation, the cause of heart disease. Inflammation, the cause of neurological conditions. So anything we can do that reduces substances or things which cause inflammation is going to be helpful. Strongest anti-inflammatories, of course, are drugs. The strongest anti-inflammatory is steroids. But steroids simply prevent the body from eliciting the symptom that it wants to tell you it has. That's the purpose of a steroid. The purpose of a steroid is to turn off a symptom. Now, the symptom is pain. It may make you feel a lot better. I understand that. But just remember as you're taking it, even if you need it, that if you take a steroid to turn off a symptom, that is no different than the idiot light comes on in your car telling you something. And you're not sure what it is, or you're worried about it, and you pull into the next service station, and you say, "You got a mechanic on duty?" "Yeah, sure. Would you come out here?" Mechanic comes out. "I need to address this. This idiot light just came on. I don't want any lights on in my car." Mechanic says, "Fine." Takes out a little ball peen hammer, breaks the light or disconnects the switch on it, and says, "Okay, lights off." Wasn't that telling us there was something wrong? And doesn't it mean that we should have addressed what was wrong? Well, yeah, but you didn't say diagnose what was going on. You just said, "I don't want the light on." Every time you take a drug to make a symptom go away, and the drug doesn't in any way help the underlying cause of the symptom, which, by the way, it never does, you just disconnected the idiot light. That doesn't mean the drug might not be necessary. Just know you're doing that, and you should also be working with somebody trying to find the cause. So at least while you're suppressing the symptom, somebody's trying to figure out what caused it, because otherwise you're disconnecting the idiot light. And that helps short-term feelings, does not help long-term effect. Anything that's been proven to increase inflammation will accelerate most neurological conditions. There are a lot of things on there. On the other hand, if we can greatly decrease inflammation, a lot of conditions slow down. In some cases, they stop progressing, especially if the inflammatory substance was a poison and that was how it was doing that. So, we want to take a look at some of those. All poisons cause inflammation. All poisons cause inflammation. However, so do all electric fields. So does all wireless technologies. And the research is huge. The amount of research that is currently published on the damaging effects of electric fields and wireless technologies is gigantic. Thousands of studies done all over the world, totally suppressed in the United States. I give people all sorts of websites. If the people say, "I want to look at some of those studies," and I'll give them a website in the United Kingdom that has maybe 1,000 studies up there, and they can take a look at them. But there's a lot of stuff up there. You can go to my website. You can scroll down the button that says Important Videos. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of videos there. When you get far enough down, there's a group of, I think 5, that's all on electric fields. There's one on Wi-Fi. There's one on cell phones. But you'll see when you get there, something will come up. It'll hit your brain like, "Oh, there's Wi-Fi. Okay, this is the group." Just watch them all. They're by a number of different world experts. It'll teach you some more different things. The ones which have been shown to be pretty much the most harmful are Wi-Fi and cordless telephones. So I have never used Wi-Fi in my home. I told the electrician, "I want a computer connection over here, and I want a computer connection in the other room, and I want one for my wife upstairs." And he looked at me like I was an idiot. He said, "David, this is the 21st century. We're going to put a Wi-Fi unit in your attic and you can have computers anywhere you want them." And I said, "Steve, you did work for me in my house in Dearhorn Valley. Do you remember that?" "Oh, that's right. You don't do wireless. Okay, show me again where you want them." And he ran the wires down. And when the wireless device went in, we turned off the wireless function so it could not transmit, and it was running through wires. And I said, "And while you're at it, I want a telephone jack in any room that doesn't already have one." He said, "Right, because you're not going to use cordless phones." I said, "No, I don't promote cancer and Parkinson's and MS and everything in my body or my wife's body." So I get phones that have a hold button on them, and people always joke with me when I go, "Hold on just a second, don't go away." And I press the hold button, hang up the phone, go pick them up in the kitchen. I said, "I had to go in the kitchen to mix some sauces that I'm making." "Why don't you just get a cordless phone so you can walk around the house with it?" "You got 20 minutes? I'll go over some of my reasons." So I don't want those things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to be inflaming my body and giving me problems that people pay me to help try to slow down or reverse. And they do these things. They really do them. So again, I can't tell you how much you're going to change in any of that. That's totally up to you. But those are the recommendations that I always add in to anybody that wants long-term health and wants to slow things down. I say, have corded phones and donate the cordless phones to Goodwill. Run wires into your computers. And of course, these days, the young folk and some of the older ones, they're not even using laptops or regular computers. They're all on tablets. The tablets are all Wi-Fi. They have to do that. I go, well, so get a laptop and connect it in with a wire, and then have somebody that knows how to do it get into the software of your wireless unit, whether it's a modem or a router, and turn off the wireless. Because if it's still on, and you're simply bringing the signal in with a wire, it's still doing the damage. After you've connected it directly with a wire, you still have to turn off the transmitter. And then I tell people, if you've gotten rid of your home phone, a lot of people have gotten rid of their home phones. Why pay for 2 phones? That's silly. You're always on the cell phone. Why? Because the cell phone is causing damage, and the home phone, if it's plugged in, is not. So I say, I know you're going to have a cell phone. I understand. I mean, I own one. I probably use it, 10 times a year. It comes with me when I go out of town, so I can call back and find out how everything's going on. Otherwise, it's not on me. I won't have it in my pocket nuking me. It's asleep in my glove compartment. And when I'm home, if somebody's going to call me, they're going to call me on a corded phone. But I tell people, put a landline back in if you can afford it. Put it in a cheap service. And tell everybody you know, if you're calling me in the evening when you expect them at home, please call this new number. This is my landline. And if your cell phone rings when you're at home, pick it up and say, do you have my my direct landline number? No, let me give it to you. No, I don't care if it's a 5-minute call. Let me give it to you. You got a pen? Okay, call that number. Bye. Click. So that as infrequently as possible, you are hurting yourself with the wireless. And instead, you're back on the old-fashioned corded phones from back before we had as many of these problems. So, if it sounds like I'm saying that we must have had a great deal less neurological diseases 50 years ago with less chemical use and less wireless, yeah, that's right. All the neurological diseases are way up higher than they used to be. Way up higher. Autoimmune diseases, way up higher. And that's one of the causes, according to the research scientists, and it doesn't surprise me. So since I like to treat all diseases by trying to eliminate their causes, I'm simply explaining all the possible causes and aggravating areas of Parkinson's. If you have a nail in your leg, the best treatment is not a painkiller. I'm sorry. Pull out the nail. And so if something is causing part of this issue and you're leaving it there, then that's one more reason that you might progress faster than you would like to without realizing that addressing it might be helping. And, we're a drug-based society. Somebody gets a headache. You take an aspirin, you take a Tylenol, you take an ibuprofen, you take a Anacin, you take whatever it is, and with most people, a half an hour to 60 minutes, the pain is gone. That's what we're used to. We're not used to prevention, and we're not used to doing something that after we've done it, so for example, disconnecting the Wi-Fi, throwing out the cordless phones, and having everything hardwired, we're not used to something where you can't, within a day, go, oh, that feels so much better. It doesn't happen that fast. It took decades to help push you to where you are. You may not feel that difference as it's slowing down the progression. I'm giving you the things that are hurting your system, and you may not see the difference as it slows things down and you don't progress as fast. And that makes it harder to get rid of things that we've now become used to. And I always tell people, health is not convenient. All right. How about a misdiagnosis? That's something you probably few of the people here have even heard of. And I'm not telling anybody in here you have a misdiagnosis. I've just seen them a number of times. So although not very well known or very well studied, many diagnosed with Parkinson's were later proven to have something else. And somebody just decided to do some other test. And oh my, you've got so-and-so. And if we'd known that a long time ago and been treating that, we might have been able to arrest it, but they didn't know. And I've seen this with Parkinson's. I've seen it with MS. Seen it with a bunch of different things. And then other conditions we don't even know. But it is a possibility. And one often misdiagnosed disease is Lyme disease. Often incorrectly, they put an S at the end and call it Lyme's disease. It's not Lyme's, it's Lyme disease. So because the standard diagnostic tests for Lyme only catch about 25% of those people who are affected. So if you had 500 people with Lyme disease, many of which maybe didn't know it, and you ran the standard 2 tests that medicine has been taught to run, which are called Western blot and PCR, 25% of the ones that have Lyme will get a positive test, and 75% of the ones that have Lyme, even if they've had it for 10 years, will get a negative test. And so they will never get treated for Lyme, and their condition will progress, and somebody will think it's all sorts of other possible neurological diseases when maybe somebody could have been killing off the Lyme spirochete, but they didn't know it. Best test I know of is called Lyme Panel A from Immunosciences Laboratory in Hollywood, California. I don't like any of the others, no matter what, and I've had many people who have had that test run, and that lab is run by one of the world experts in allergy and immunology. He's published hundreds of papers. I know him well, Aristo Vajdani. He's an Indian scientist. And a lot of these people come back positive for Lyme, and they were told they had fibromyalgia. They were told they had polymyalgia rheumatica. They were told they had rheumatoid arthritis. And of course, those are all conditions that are autoimmune and are never going to get better. Well, we found out that we have Lyme, and I can often get a lot of those a lot better too, because I can find the triggers. We find out they have Lyme. Okay, now we have a causative agent. And I've got a half a dozen substances, none of which are drugs. I'm not a doctor. I don't use drugs, which slowly kill off the Lyme spirochete. So I've got a growing number of people, although it usually takes 2.5 years, in which they no longer have Lyme. All their symptoms are gone. One of them now has decided to get pregnant again, had a second child, which before that she could barely take care of the first one. But first we had to know she had it, and her doctor said, no, I know some of my symptoms are Lyme-like. They ran the PCR in Western blot. It's not Lyme. I said, I understand. Now I want you to get your doctor to order Lyme Panel A from this lab. And the doctor said, well, I think you're wasting your money. It may not be covered by insurance. She said, fine, if it's not, I'll pay for it. They ran the test. She came back Lyme. Best money she ever spent in her entire life. Now we're a number of years later. She doesn't have Lyme anymore. She doesn't have pain anymore. Her family is doing fine. And so we have to take a look at those things. It's worthwhile knowing. Few physicians know how to properly treat Lyme or Parkinson's or any number of other different things. And that could change, but first they have to be willing to accept that what they were taught in medical school might not be completely correct. And let's take a look. I've had 2 or 3 MDs at different medical conferences, many years apart, that all made the same statement from the podium when they were lecturing. They said, when I was in medical school, one of the first lectures in the first couple of months, there was thousands of people in one of the rooms, and the professor that was lecturing made a comment. He said, based on our knowledge, approximately 50% of what we're going to be teaching you in all of your years until you get your MD is correct, and 50% is wrong. This has been true for years. We always find out years later, that was wrong, we change it, that was wrong, we change it, that was wrong, we change it. But about 50% right and about 50% wrong. We have no idea which is which, or of course we wouldn't teach you what was wrong. I mean, we're not going to do that stupid. So please, when you get out of medical school, do not think you know everything, and do not push stuff away and keep learning. Those few doctors had a professor willing to make that admission, which of course we know is true. If you ask a professor of biology, zoology, medicine, physics, botany, I really wouldn't care, chemistry, any professor, any university in the United States. Professor, are you going to use the same textbook in your class that you're using now, 5 years from now? There won't be a hesitation. There won't be, well, it depends. No, absolutely not. You know you're not? How about if it's one of the best textbooks you've ever had, where you say the students, it's written better, the students have an easier time learning from it? No, absolutely not. Why not? Because in that period of time, too many things in that textbook will have been disproven and will have to be changed. All of the professors know that in every science field. Why the doctors don't know it, I don't understand. It's even more true in their field. So, we have to keep looking at that. So, as an example, what if a Parkinson's patient really has Lyme disease? Couldn't tell you how many do. Lyme is a spirochete, it's a parasite. None of the Parkinson's patients, none of the Parkinson's treatments kill parasites. So if you get a Lyme test from the lab I mentioned, and you find out you really have Lyme, You need to, of course, locate a health practitioner who knows how to treat Lyme correctly, because the standard medical treatment is massive. Even IV antibiotics for 6 or 8 months, they kill off enough of them that you sometimes, and sometimes not, feel better for a while. And then the ones that you didn't kill come back and feel worse. I was listening to all the presentations from a Lyme conference once, and one of the doctors, real good, educated doctor that treats Lyme, said every patient he's ever met who had chronic Lyme, in other words, they hadn't just gotten it, they found out they'd had it for years, in which the person didn't have it anymore, was not treated by a physician. They were treated by a holistic practitioner that knew what stuff to do. It took a couple of years to clear it. All the ones that were treated by physicians, because the protocol that they're taught can't get it everywhere. They would kill you if they kept you on the antibiotics high enough. The others, can work. But, again, I don't know if any of you in here have Lyme. I have no idea. But it's a possibility. I'm here to educate. You decide what to do with that education. Parkinson's is caused by neurotoxins. I've said that a couple times already. So it's very important to understand this. So we're going to go over it a little bit again. Mercury, lead, arsenic, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, paint thinners, solvents, industrial cleansers, chlorine, chloramines, fluoride. These are all known or suspected causes of numerous neurological diseases. Every single one of these, there are papers on, either saying we know it's one of the causes or it's suspected of being a cause of numerous neurological diseases, including Parkinson's. And your doctor never tells you that. And so you don't even think about, we clean the kitchen floor in the bathroom with a chlorine-containing cleaner. I mean, when I walk in, it smells like I've walked in into an industrial bathroom somewhere else where they just mopped it with Clorox. You're breathing all that stuff in. We don't use any chlorine cleaners in my house. Or ammonia, just as bad. There's another one. So anything that you can reduce is a benefit. The more we can avoid, and the more we can either neutralize or detoxify out of our bodies of the ones that are already there, the more likely we are to slow or even stop the progression of the disease, and in some cases partly reverse it. And again, I have people that had MS, and their doctor doesn't know what to do because they don't have MS anymore. And all he can say is, you must not have had it before. But doc, I got re-diagnosed, verified, validated at the Mayo Clinic. Doesn't matter. They both had to be wrong because you had an incurable condition, and now you don't have it anymore. Well, sorry, but that's not really the way things are going. So, and actually, before I show this slide, since I'm talking about reversal of MS, which is another neurological condition, one of the studies that was done, at this point it's like 10 years ago, was a study on gluten and wheat. Gluten and wheat, especially wheat, other forms of gluten sometimes aren't as bad, is a massively inflammatory substance. Very, very inflammatory. And somehow or other, this doesn't usually happen. Somehow or other, an MS patient in a wheelchair ended up in this gluten study. They don't usually do that. They're taking healthy people and looking at differences. Well, after being 100% off of gluten for 6 months, her MS vanished. She started walking around without the wheelchair. And there's like, what the heck is going on here? So they did a brain scan. The lesions were gone. She no longer had an MS diagnosis. And they went, no, this is not possible. They asked her, would you be willing to go back on your regular diet and eat wheat? And she said, yeah. I mean, I miss pasta, I miss bread, I miss cookies and crackers, sure. So she went back on it within, I believe it was 30 days. She's back in the wheelchair. They redid the brain scan. All the brain lesions are back there. She now has MS. They pull her off all of it within a couple months. It's all gone again. The MS is gone. She said, that's it. No more. I will never eat another piece of wheat again. So, am I saying that wheat causes Parkinson's or wheat causes MS? Of course not. Caused hers. And because that's not a drug, what should have happened never happened. Because what should have happened in a society in which we really care about helping all of us that have issues would be to have indoctrinated into a study, I don't know, a couple hundred at least, MS patients, teach them all exactly where wheat can be hiding, put them on a 100% wheat-free diet, and see out of 200, do we get none? Do we get 1? Do we get 5? Do we get 10 that are way better but not cured? We don't know, because the money isn't going to go there, because the money's in drugs. And so we have to make the decisions. And so I teach people how to avoid these things and where they're hiding so that people can try them themselves. EWG stands for the Environmental Working Group. It's a fabulous nonprofit organization in the United States that is a watchdog for us. They're a great group. I give them money every year just to help them. Their very first study on chemicals in humans was called the Body Burden Study. They've now had 3 or 4 others. So if you go to their website, you have to hunt for the original one. But they took 9 adults, and these adults were various different adults at different ages, including, I believe, 2 people who were unbelievably massive, 100% no poisons, only eat organic foods, because they wanted them included also to see how many differences there would be with the people that were really trying to avoid this stuff. So 9 adults were studied. They found, and what they did is they took fat biopsies. So it's called a punch biopsy. They take some fat out of your butt. They divide it up into, I think it was 7 portions, sent it into 7 labs in 3 countries, each one with the ability to detect different chemicals. 76 chemicals linked to cancer in humans or animals, average 53 per subject. 94 chemicals toxic to the brain and nervous system, average 62 per subject. 86 chemicals that interfere with the hormonal system, average 58 per subject. 79 chemicals associated with birth defects or abnormal development, average 55 per subject. 77 chemicals toxic to the reproductive system, 55 per subject. 77 chemicals toxic to the immune system, 53 per subject. So these 9 people that they studied were loaded with dozens and dozens of immune-suppressing, neurotoxic, reproductive, harming agents. And this made the news when it first came out in 2003. I remember it. I show some of these people and the chemicals they found in their bodies in some of my lectures. But it's www.environmentalworkinggroup.org. And it's way worse today. That was in 2003. We've released way more chemicals in the environment. There are way more pesticides that we use. There are way more herbicides. There are way more solvents. You name it, everything's gotten worse. So avoidance, detoxification, neutralization, all 3 are worth the effort. But remember, don't ever look at a presentation, especially one like mine, where it's scary that there's this much stuff out there, and oh, damn, how much of this can I do? Every step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. Remember that. It's a very simple statement. But don't ever go, because I can't do it all, it's not worth doing anything. That's not a good way to try and improve your health. That's not a good way to slow down the progression of a condition. A good way is to, okay, let me go download these slides from where Nancy put them on the website. Let me go over some of these things, and let's see which ones we can start with. And maybe after a month or 2, that wasn't that hard. Okay, let's add a couple more. Every step in the right direction is a step in the right direction. So if you start replacing some of your soaps and toothpaste and polishes and lotions and cleansers with less toxic ones, and you can go to my website, and I think it's the first or second button. I believe it says Improving Your Health. And if you click on the Improving Your Health button, and you can read the stuff that's there, that's fine, or you can just scroll down to the bottom of the page. And it says PDF printout. Click on that, and you'll print out 3 or 4 pages in which, over the years, and I update it when I find more, I've got stuff divided up for you. Bar soaps, liquid soaps, body lotions, cleansers, detergents, hair shampoos, conditioners, all of those different things, and find the less toxic ones. This is not for me. I'm not going to sell them to you. I don't have time. I sell only to my patients. It'll tell you what the name of it is, what websites you can go to. I don't make a penny off it. I just want you to know it. And you get a very, very nice list. If possible, if you're willing, hardwire your phones and your computers and turn off the wireless portion of them. The more you can do, the better off you are. Totally up to you. Some Parkinson's is caused by the mercury in your silver dental fillings. So if you decided, yeah, I've got 4 silver fillings, don't go to your dentist and say, I want them removed. Do not. Don't even consider going to your dentist and doing that, because no dentist that still places silver fillings knows how to remove them. They will release 100 times more mercury into your body by vaporizing and drilling those out than leaving them alone. You have to go to a trained mercury-free dentist that knows what they're doing and that hasn't put in a mercury filling in 20 years because he or she doesn't want to be exposed to the mercury. And first, you want to actually get the biocompatibility test done to see what should they put in its place so it doesn't have a different bad cause. That's if you want to do it at all. You want the biocompatibility test done to see what to put in. You want a properly trained mercury-free dentist. Detoxification is always beneficial for any neurological condition as long as you don't do it so fast that it ever makes you feel worse. Very, very important. Anybody ever tells you to do something and you trust the person, but when you do it you feel worse, stop. I don't care who he is, who she is, what their credentials are, how well known they are. You start doing something and it makes you worse, stop. So when you properly do detoxification, it should be done slow enough that you don't feel worse. And if you do something and it makes you feel worse, but you're convinced that it's something you need, you're just doing it too fast. Cut it down to half the dose. Do it more slowly so that you don't feel worse. I give an example with dust. So somebody will tell me, I started taking the drops you gave me for kidney and liver support. But when I get from 4 drops twice a day to 6 drops twice a day, I don't feel very good, so I stop the drops. You weren't listening in my office. You didn't read the separate page that I give you just on those drops. All we're doing with those drops is supporting your kidneys and your liver and helping them to slowly clean themselves out so that they can both detoxify themselves and then work better for you. So here's my question. Because as soon as they made you feel worse, instead of going to the lower dose, which is what I told you, the one that didn't cause a problem, and staying there for a few weeks and then trying again, you stopped. So if you go into a room that's covered with dust, and you shuffle your feet as you're going into the room, and the dust flies up everywhere, and you start breathing it in and you're coughing, please tell me, is that an indication, since going into that room makes you cough, that that room should not be cleaned? Of course not. It's an indication, oh my God, does that room need to be cleaned? In a different way, more slowly, so that doesn't happen. So when somebody takes a detoxifying agent, or a liver support, or a kidney support agent, and it makes them feel worse, and this is simply a supplement that's designed to support and help detoxify your kidneys and liver, that's not something that shows you, oh my, I shouldn't take this. That says, wow, my liver and kidneys are obviously in pretty bad shape. I better do this. Okay, we got to adjust the dose somehow because I'm not supposed to feel worse. That's just an important thing to understand. So how do we support the body? There are a whole bunch of different methods and nutritional support. First one is always diet. Nothing promotes neurological damage more than a low-fat diet with sugar and starchy foods added. Nothing. The best way to promote, which obviously you don't want to do, the best way to promote neurological conditions and immune conditions is with especially neurological, is with a low-fat diet and sugar and starchy foods. And this has now been proven for probably 30 years. And only in the last 5 years are the experts recognizing it. I was just at a holistic cancer conference 3 weeks ago. Best Answer for Cancer, one of the top integrative oncology conferences. I was surprised because when I hear a lot of experts agree, it's like, wow, finally, unbelievable. We had experts there from 5 countries, and when they were asked, what's the best diet for cancer? There was one exception. All the others agreed. Well, the research is very clear. The best diet for cancer, which, by the way, has been the best diet for neurological conditions for 50 years, is a ketogenic diet. That's a diet where 60 to 70% of your calories come from fat. But you have to learn which fats they are, or you bring in all the wrong fats, because the nerves love fat. And it was great to have them agree. So the best diet for all neurological conditions and cancer appears to be the ketogenic diet. 60 to 70% of calories come from high-quality anti-inflammatory fats and oils, approximately 20% from anti-inflammatory animal products. What's an anti-inflammatory animal product? An anti-inflammatory animal product is an animal food in which, because the animals were eating what they're supposed to, grass, exactly. So the cattle are out grazing on grass, the sheep were out grazing on grass, so the lamb and beef is grass-fed. That brings their omega-3 content, which is a specific fat, which is anti-inflammatory, 500% higher than the same cattle-fed grains. So if you're eating grass-fed beef, which is all I eat, grass-fed lamb, which is all I eat, eggs from pastured, that's actually the word you want. You're not looking for free range. You're not looking for cage-free. You're not looking for just organic. You want pastured organic on the eggs. Pastured means they're out there in a green pasture. They're eating what they're supposed to be eating, and organic. If it just says pastured, they could be feeding them genetically modified garbage. Pastured and organic is what you want to see on eggs. And then the balance is about 10% from starch-free vegetables. So what vegetables have starch that I'm telling you that avoiding would be good for you? Which, of course, are the ones that, by the way, I don't eat because they're starch. That would be anything made of corn, anything made of any color, type, or style, or variety of potatoes. I don't care which one it is. That's still 85% pure starch. Yams, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, white potatoes, red potatoes, purple potatoes, 85% starch. We want starch-free vegetables. And the hard-skinned squashes. That's the other starch in the vegetable area. Every hard-skinned squash. What's a hard-skinned squash? Well, that's easy. If you go to the store and you buy a squash and you put it on the table, you don't cook it, you don't steam it, it's raw. And you could take a knife and slice it into little pieces and put it on your salad, like zucchini. That's a soft-skinned squash. If you try to slice it and all you do is bounce the knife off and maybe break it, that's a hard-skinned squash. So what's a hard-skinned squash, which is totally starch? Spaghetti squash, butternut squash, acorn squash, kabocha squash, pumpkin. Those are all 85% starch. Your body will turn that starch into sugar, and that's inflammation. So, which are the anti-inflammatory fats? Two of the best books, if you want to read something on them, is The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz and Eat Fat, Get Thin by Mark Hyman. Now, that's a misleading label. I don't care if you are skinny and don't need to get thin. Read the book. It should be called Eat Fat, Get Healthy. It's just that diet books sell. So he called it Eat Fat, Get Thin. Dr. Hyman did a fabulous job of explaining the differences between good and bad fats and the difference between grass-fed meat and not grass-fed meat, goes over the research studies in a way that the reader who is not a professional can understand it. That's a fantastic book, Eat Fat, Get Thin. For those of you that listen all the time, yes, you can get it from audiobooks, from audible.com in the unabridged version, as you can also The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz, which is a larger book just on fats. Excellent, excellent book. So, the best anti-inflammatory fats are the ones that humans consumed for centuries before we had all these diseases. Grass-fed butter, grass-fed ghee, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, bright orange palm oil, and you want fats to be organic because fats grab onto pesticides and herbicides. So even if your other stuff isn't organic, make the fats organic. Other good oils, if they're pressed at low temperatures, would include walnut oil, avocado oil, macadamia oil. Not required. You know, if the only oils in your house that were separate, because obviously there's oil in the egg yolk, there's oil in the chicken skin, there's oil in the beef, but if the only separate ones that you had in the cupboard were butter, ghee, olive oil, and for cooking at high temperatures, ghee and coconut, that's all you need. And if you don't like the flavor of coconut, so you don't really want to use coconut oil because it's going to change the flavor of everything you put it in, then don't get the one that says virgin or extra virgin. Get the one that says expeller pressed. The processing has only removed the taste and flavor, and so now it's pretty much of a tasteless fat. It still has 98% of its benefits. So I carry it that way for the people that they go, I don't like coconut. I'm not going to start putting coconut in all my dishes. I know what they taste like. Thank you very much. I don't need to add coconut flavor to them. This won't add any flavor to them. If you like the flavor, go to the health food store, buy the ones that have never had sex. That's the virgin or the extra virgin. The harmful inflammatory fats the ones that in a perfect world would be illegal, are canola, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, corn oil, all the margarines, and anything that says vegetable oil. Vegetable oil is the way to lie to the public. Because if you went into the produce section and you asked the produce manager, I'd like a pound of vegetable. And he said, excuse me, what vegetable? No, just vegetable. Sir or ma'am, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, you got vegetable oil in the oil aisle. I want vegetable. That's so that they can put whatever cheap garbage stuff they have today that they can get the best price on in there, and they don't have to tell you what it is. So all of those are toxic, and I will not eat any of them. As a matter of fact, if I go out to a restaurant and I'm going to order, a piece of wild-caught salmon and some mixed vegetables, I will use my favorite word for getting what I want in a restaurant, the word allergy. I'm not allergic to these things, but I'll say, would you cook my vegetables in either butter? I know it's in a restaurant. It's not going to be grass-fed butter. Well, either butter or extra virgin olive oil. I'm allergic to most of the other fats. The second they hear that word, everything gets written down. And in some places, like maybe Applebee's, for example, they'll come back and they'll say, I'm sorry, sir or ma'am, we don't have olive oil or butter in the entire chain. They have only cheap garbage. I stand up and I walk out. Harmful inflammatory foods. All sugars. Sugar is sugar. Sugar is sugar. Maple syrup, honey, fruit juices, sodas, molasses, palm sugar, coconut sugar. It doesn't make any difference. And there are some good movies on that. There's a great, Dr. Lustig has a fabulous one, and it's on my website in the important video section under sugar. Alcohol harms the liver and converts to sugar and triglycerides. So alcohol is also something that's not good for you. Starch is the silent inflamer. That's the one people don't know about. People don't understand when they're having their acorn squash or their Tahitian squash or their spaghetti squash that they're having 85% pure sugar. The body's going to take that starch and turn it right into sugar. So where is all this starch? The ones that people don't recognize. 75 to 80, it's actually 75 to 85. Like I said before, all potatoes, all yams, as I said before again, hard-skinned squashes. Grains and beans are 75 to 80% starch. Doesn't matter which grain it is. Rice happens to be one of the fastest converters, so that's even worse. But these all the grains are 75 to 85% starch. I don't eat grains. The beans are interesting because the beans, even though they're 80% starch, convert more slowly. So they're less harmful. So if you had one of the slowest converting grains, beans, which is lentils, for example, and you had some green or red or orange lentils, and you had a plate with broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, spinach, kale. I mean, those are all non-starchy vegetables. And we improve their health by pouring some grass-fed butter over them. We improve their taste by melting some organic grass-fed cheese over them. And you still want to starch, have a small portion of a bean as long as it's not soybeans. And now a portion to rebuild the tissue that needs to be rebuilt of some kind of good animal food. Grass-fed beef, grass-fed lamb, pastured eggs, wild-caught fish. But you want the ones that are low in mercury, especially with a neurological condition. Go to my website, go to the button that says heavy metals, and find the fish chart. Download it, print it out, have it in the house. You only want the ones that are in green that say excellent. The others are too high in mercury. Supplements for Parkinson's. The goal is supplements which will either, or more than one, support the neurological system, support the cellular mitochondrial energy system, support detoxification of the bad chemicals, support detoxification of heavy metals, or possibly some special supplements that have been shown to help Parkinson's. So, doses I use of nerve-supporting supplements, and again, you can download this whole thing. Is it on your site or the Parkinson site?
It's on www.pointlomapdgroup.net.
Okay, www.pointlomapdgroup.net. And you can download this entire set. You can print the slides out, so you don't have to go nuts taking notes here. Phosphatidylcholine is the technical name for lecithin. lecithin, which is derived from the soybean, but it is not a soybean. It's lecithin. So don't worry about where it came from. Lecithin helps to emulsify fats and move them around. It helps clear out the liver. It helps them be more water soluble. I have all my neurological patients and the preventive patients like me on lecithin every day. A few tablespoons, 4,000 to 6,000 milligrams a day is about 3 or 4 tablespoons. Phosphatidylserine, the one I get is from Jarrow Formulas, 300 to 400 milligrams a day. Acetyl L-carnitine, also from Jarrow. That's just an inexpensive company that has really good quality. Again, I don't make any money in any of this stuff. I sometimes use low-dose lithium. Lithium is a nerve-supporting substance. It's used for psychiatric disorders at 300 to 600 milligrams. Now, that's a drug. I use low doses of 3 to 6 milligrams. That's a nutrient because it helps the neurological system. I have almost all my patients, except the few that love liver. I don't have a lot that love liver. How many people in here have had liver in the last 3 months? 3. Okay, well, good. So if somebody has liver, let's say once or twice a month, and it's a regular portion of liver, like 4 or 5 ounces, they might not need a bunch of extra A because that's where liver is in nature. There is no liver in carrot. There is no vitamin A in carrots. Vitamin A is an animal molecule. It doesn't exist in the plant world. The only big source of vitamin A is liver. But most people don't get enough because they don't eat liver. We used to eat the organs. And so I'll have people take maybe a little 10,000 unit soft gel of A. Unique E is a special form of vitamin E. That's why I have it highlighted in black. It's called Unique E. And I'll have people take 2 capsules of that maybe with breakfast. Vitamin K1. I don't use vitamin K2. I don't find it works as well. Somewhere between 100 and 150 micrograms is a very tiny amount, but we need it. And then I have everybody test their vitamin D level. The vitamin D test is called 25-OH-D3. It's read as 25-hydroxyvitamin D3. Vitamin D is very important. Vitamin D, they say if they discovered it today, it wouldn't be called a vitamin. Based on what we now know about it, it would be called a steroid-like hormone because of how much it helps neurological conditions, pain, all sorts of different things. I want all of my patients to get their level up to between 60 and 80 on the US test. If it's a Canadian test, it's a different reference range. So I have them test their vitamin D3, and if they're between 60 and 80, keep doing what you're doing. If they're not, which is 98% of the people are not, because you're not sunbathers or people that are outdoors, naked all the time, you're never going to get enough. I start putting them on vitamin D, maybe 4,000 units a day, and in 3 months we test it again. Okay, is it up there in the right place now? Oh, it is? Fine, then that was your dose. Keep taking it. Oh, it's still not there. Okay, take another 2,000. Let's do it for 3 more months. Let's take another look. I want to get them to between 60 and 80. Lifestar.com has a product called Genesis Rice Bran that has a whole bunch of micronutrients in it that support the neurological system, actually tastes delicious, and I have people take 2 tablespoons a day. They can put it right in their mouth. They can put it in a smoothie. They can put it over their salad. Fish oil or cod liver oil. I generally use the brand Carlson. I find them to work best. I want people to have between 800 and 1,200 milligrams of both EPA and DHA per day. So 1 tablespoon of the liquid will usually give you that amount. So I have thousands of people taking a tablespoon of Carlson's lemon-flavored cod liver oil a day. I've been taking a tablespoon of their cod liver oil a day for probably the last 25 years. B12 lozenges. B12 helps the neurological system. So a lot of people need more B12. How many people in here, your doctors know that, and you're getting B12 shots? Just 1, surprising with Parkinson's. We need some smarter doctors. So B12 level really has to get up, but it doesn't have to be in a shot. If a lozenge or a spray is used, not the things you swallow, it doesn't work, then you need a shot, but the lozenge or a spray sits in your mouth for a while, you can get the level up just as well as a shot. I have usually people take between 1,000 and 3,000 micrograms, which is 1 to 3 milligrams a day. Vitamin C is universally helpful. It is too low in everyone because we are one of the very few animals on the planet Earth that has a genetic defect, so we don't manufacture our own vitamin C. Almost every other animal makes its own. We have to get it in our diet. So most people would be benefited by getting at least 1,000 milligrams with breakfast and dinner. If you go to my website, there are 2 great informational resources for vitamin C. Important videos. The first video, I found a video so good on vitamin C, I told my webmaster, put it up on top. I got 75 videos there. I said, no, put this one right on top of all of them. That way I want to be able to tell people, go to the very first screen that says vitamin C and watch that video. So that's fabulous. And then you can go to the MP3 section, and there's a button there with a part 1 and part 2 by Thomas Levy, who's another MD, world expert on vitamin C. Most, if not all of us, would get healthier if we took at least 1,000 milligrams with each meal. And that's, 2 meals a day for some people, 3 meals a day for other people. My 2 favorites, and that's the reason I wanted to give you these slides so you could download them so you're not madly taking notes. My 2 favorites are called Ultimate Ascorbate C1000 from Source Naturals and Vitality C Powder from American Nutraceuticals. Supporting your mitochondria, CoQ10 does that very well. Q-Absorb 100 is my favorite. Again, B12 lozenges or sprays support the mitochondria. D-ribose is a sugar your body can't use, and therefore it doesn't cause any of the bad effects of sugar, but it does support the mitochondria. Lots of B vitamins, and I just want them in a good multi. Normally, I put people on Super Nutrition Perfect Family iron-free, unless I have a test that shows me their iron is low, because too much iron is bad. If I know your iron's low, we go on the regular one, otherwise iron-free. Ultra-free to iron-free. All one is a powder. I would never use Symptom or 1 a day, and we don't want to use anything that says 1 a day because most vitamins don't stay in your body for more than 12 to 14 hours after you take them. Therefore, if you take them with breakfast, you're making it so all night long when your body's doing thousands of regenerative things or trying to, it's deficient in numerous nutrients. If you instead take them at night with dinner, then it's deficient all day while you need them. Therefore, multivitamins always get taken with breakfast and dinner. That way we're covering the day better. All multivitamins must be taken with both. So here's a good example of a lousy vitamin that if I was, what would I have to be? A benevolent dictator? I don't know how else I'd get the power to do this. I would take things like this. This is Centrum Silver, which is the most sold vitamin in the United States. I would take it off the market. It has FD&C Blue Lake Aluminum 2, FD&C Red Aluminum 4 Lake, and FD&C Yellow. Those food colorings are all allowed. It's on the FDA's website to have in them mercury, lead, arsenic, and cadmium. You never want a substance that has an FD&C food coloring in. All the mouthwashes on the market, except the really, really good ones, all are colored. What do they color them with? FD&C food colorings. So you're taking toxic chemicals. Polyethylene glycol. Okay, somebody know what that is? Antifreeze, thank you. So that's, yeah, of course I want antifreeze in my multivitamin. Absolutely. We know if your dog laps up some antifreeze that comes out of your car, the dog dies. And you're taking it in your multivitamin? No, thank you. So we've got a whole bunch of stuff that shouldn't be there. I would never use it. Detoxification of chemicals. Very difficult, very important, should be done slowly. If you happen to have access to a sauna, which a lot of people don't, saunas can be helpful because sweating detoxifies. But the next day, if you feel worse, it was either too hot or too long. I don't want to do something that makes you worse. Even if it's good for you, that was too much. So we slow it down. There are a lot of products that help detoxify chemicals from the body. That is much better carried out by some knowledgeable health practitioner. That's what I do with people all day long. The next 2 slides show some of the detoxification products I use with my patients, and I teach in 2-day seminars to medical doctors. I always begin way below the label doses because I don't want reactions. We are not in a hurry. This is not a race. So this is this is a German liver support, German kidney support, U.S. liver support, U.S. kidney support, very slow, gentle liver, U.S., very slow, gentle kidney if I have to use them. And I usually have people on lecithin because it helps emulsify the fats. I teach a 2-day seminar on detoxification to medical professionals. I teach them to begin with 2 months of kidney and liver support, so when they start detoxing people through our other cells, you're not overloading the system. So even though the kidney and liver is already doing some detox, we're then going to start pulling it out of the rest of the body and pushing it through the kidneys and liver, and we don't want to overload them. ACZ Nano is a very simple spray. You shake it up, you spray a couple sprays in your mouth. I have people slowly bring it up to 7 sprays twice a day. If they go from 2 to 3 twice a day, they go, nah, 2 twice a day, I didn't have a problem. But at 3 sprays twice a day, I was more tired. Then your body can't handle it. Go back to 2. Stay at 2 for a few weeks. It's moving. It's working. There's no race. And that starts pulling out heavy metals. I use numerous homeopathic detoxification drops slowly and carefully to start pulling different things out of the body. So this is just maybe 20 of the 75 that I use. So this says, this is a detox specifically for Cipro, thimerosal, malathion, Roundup, lawn and garden detox, sick building syndrome, plastics, environmental. These are all different ones, and this is just a small sample of the ones I use. And I just start going from one to the next. We start pulling some chemicals out of you. We start pulling some more chemicals out. I teach you how to do it at a speed that doesn't make you feel worse. We don't want to feel worse. That means you're going too fast. This is the ACZ Nano, toxic metal. Removal is called chelation. Chelate means to bind. So if you're grabbing something and yanking it out of your cells and letting it pass out in your urine or your stool, that's chelation. Too many professionals are using agents that are too strong. How do you know they're too strong? Because they tell you, well, we can only do them for like 3 days in a row and then you stop for 2 weeks. Or we can do them for 5 days in a row and then you take a month off. No. Sorry, body doesn't like to do that. That's like if I told all of you, I want you to breathe twice as many breaths for the next hour so you can hold your breath for the following hour because you already got those breaths. The body doesn't like to do things that way. So I want to do things at the speed that the body has no problems with, and I want substances like ACZ Nano that you can do every single day so you're always catching some metals and pulling them out of the body. I've taken this daily for the last 8 years because I don't want to conditions. You know, I mean, I'm getting older. We're all getting older. I was 65 a couple weeks ago. I would like to have my memory just as intact when I'm 85 and when I'm 105 as I do now. And I work at that to keep it that way if I can. Specific supplements for Parkinson's. Resveratrol is a substance that has specifically helped some people with Parkinson's. They've felt better. Sometimes their tremor goes down a little. It's not going to hurt them. Some people it will help, some people it won't help. We don't know who, but the only product I know and trust of resveratrol is the one called Longevinex. They have a new one called Longevinex Plus. I am not recommending that one. I don't need the extra things they've put in it and the extra cost. Just Longevinex, and it's just 1 capsule a day. Proper removal of amalgam fillings has been shown to benefit a lot of people, but it's dangerous if it's done wrong. Glutathione. Glutathione is a chemical your body makes. It's a massively strong antioxidant. The doctors will tell you that they can give you some if they're really neurological experts in intravenous, and that's the only way it's usable. Bunk. That's not true. The oral capsules don't work, but the liposomal oral forms get into the body very well if you use the right brands. There are 2 brands that are good. Those 2 brands are Valamenta and Redisorb. Again, liposomal liquid glutathione has to be refrigerated. I have people start with 1/4 teaspoon once a day to see how they feel. No problems, good. We go to 1/4 teaspoon twice a day, no problems. Do that for a week or 2. Bring it up to 1/2 teaspoon twice a day, and then I'll just maybe stay at 1/2 teaspoon 2 or 3 times a day. It helps pull chemicals and things out of your body. There's a substance you may or may not have heard of called NAC, also called NAC, N-acetylcysteine, which is sometimes used because it helps in detoxification. I don't like it. I've seen it cause too many problems and too many people. It works too fast, only because the dose is too high. Every product in the health food store of NAC is 500 or 600 milligrams. Your body wants 50 to 100. They give you 500 or 600. However, it is an FDA-approved protocol for acute acetaminophen poisoning because it helps clear it out through your liver. So it's actually used by medical doctors, and they're using 150 milligrams per 2 pounds of body weight. So they're using massive amounts to be able to reverse poisoning and save your life. So it's something they even know about. I simply use lesser amounts. Since you don't have an acute poisoning, I found those doses are too high. I don't want to use, I would like maybe 50 milligrams. And so I found a product in which it has in 4 capsules the N-acetylcysteine is 200 milligrams. Therefore, in one capsule, it's 50. So I can give somebody something with a small amount and some other things that help, and we can go up real slowly if we need it. The proper order and the proper speed is always different for everybody. It took the poisons a long time and the deficiencies a long time to cause what they have caused in our bodies, and we have to respect that and not try to be in a hurry, or we're going to cause more problems. If anyone should decide to take some of this information, make sure you are doing things slowly. You know, obviously this is a free country, you're allowed to do that. If you want to take a look at diet, you've got a couple of different ketogenic diet websites you can go to. I always find that people, if they toss all the bad food out and bring in the good food out for 90 days as an experiment, 60 at least, because it takes 60 days to clear wheat out of your body. So you need to find out all the places that wheat is hiding and then do everything really, really well for 60 days. Next thing, of course, is kidney and liver support. EliteAlternatives.net is a registered nurse in San Diego that decided that she wanted to help people that have taken my classes, my lectures, that have watched my videos, to have access to some of the products I talk about. So if you can't find them in the health food store, she's probably got them on her website. I've even allowed her to put dosing directions with the orders for the kidney and liver products. Basic nutrients that everybody needs. I call them the basic 6. There has never been a study done in the United States or elsewhere that hasn't found multiple deficiencies in every person tested. Never. So if a doctor or a dietitian, the two people that have been given all the information wrong, says that a well-balanced diet of adequate nutrients will make it so you don't have any nutrient deficiencies, I love those people. I say, fabulous. $5,000 says you can't produce a study to validate that. Usually when they hear me say that, they go, if he's willing to bet me $5,000, I have a funny feeling I might be wrong. Yeah, you are wrong. People have looked at that 4 or 5 times to see if they could find anybody without multiple deficiencies. Every time. Multiple vitamin deficiencies, multiple mineral deficiencies, multiple trace mineral deficiencies. So you do need things just to do that. So what I call the basic 6, the basic 6 are a multivitamin, an extra A, C, D, E, and fish oil. That's the basic 6. So there's the next slide. A basic 6, a good multivitamin taken with breakfast and dinner, extra A, extra C, extra D, extra E in the form of unique E, and fish or cod liver oil. Those are the basic 6. This goes over the way I dose them. Cod liver oil, 1 teaspoon per 40 to 60 pounds of body weight, and it gives you the brands and the specific ones I use. After diet, liver, and kidney support in the basic 6, that's when I bring in things like Longevinex and glutathione. And after all that stuff is in place, and somebody's had a couple months of kidney and liver support, now we start using those things that pull poisons out. Because the liver and kidney can now handle it, and we can start slowly pulling those out. But I always say, if you experience any overload, go back to the dose that didn't cause the overload, stay there, and we'll continue doing more kidney and liver support. What is an overload reaction? What do I mean by an overload reaction? Overload reaction is almost always either fatigue, so you feel more tired than usual. I don't care how fatigued you normally are. More tired than usual, that's an overload reaction. If you start getting headaches that you don't normally get, if you start getting a skin condition, the body's saying, I can't get this out through my kidneys and liver fast enough. Kidneys, liver, urine, and stool. So I'm going to give the person a way to get out through their skin. Or in a condition such as Parkinson's, something gets worse. So if you start pulling things that are bad for you, which you don't want in your body, out too quickly, all of a sudden your walking is worse. Your tremor is worse. Okay, drop it down to the dose that didn't do that and start pulling it back out at the dose that doesn't cause that. And stay there for a few weeks. We don't want to detoxify at a speed that is going to cause any problems. So I know we have to get out of here at some point, but if we have time, I'll take a couple questions. All right? Anybody? Yes, sir. I've just invested a large amount in these people. Large amount in dental work, sure. They've been telling me that for some reason my mouth has a propensity to introduce more and more cavities. when the research was done on cavities, it was done by Weston Price about 50 years ago. He traveled around the world. What they found was all of the traditional societies that they studied, and this was 12 or 13 populations all around the world eating differently. None of them that were still eating their traditional diets. So they weren't eating anything out of a can. They weren't eating anything out of a refrigerator. They were eating the stuff that they were growing on the land, that they were fishing, that they were killing, etc. No cavities. So all of the dental stuff is all caused by diet. And yes, there are some supplements that can help, but the bacteria in the mouth that cause dental decay, they eat starch, sugar, and alcohol. So those same three that are all sugar or convert to sugar, those are the things that they love. So I might have somebody buy a dental irrigator like a water pick, and I might direct them to a specific product that you can put into that water pick along with the water that will help clean out little particles that your brush and your floss won't get out, and they're also helping the bacteria grow. But diet is the most important one. I have people change their diets, and all of a sudden they stop getting all their cavities. Yep, they don't know. If you want a good book, if you want to read about this, one good book that was written on that. It's a very simple book. It's called Root Canal Cover-Up Exposed. And guess what? It was written by one of the 16 original founding members of the U.S. American Endodontic Association. When he did the research that had already been done and found that this has been published, and he wrote this book, they hated him because he was exposing what had been known for a long time. He was a member of our board until he died. He willed us the rights to continue to publish his book. Very good book, Root Canal Cover-Up Exposed, Dr. George Meinig. Yes? Microwave ovens are way less of a problem unless, of course, you love to sit right next to the microwave and read a book for a half an hour while stuff are cooking. But they're a problem in a different way. The microwave oven is not a problem because of the radiation. The microwave oven is a problem because the research has been done, and I know because I was paid to fly to Washington, D.C. and present it to 600 people, that irradiated food and food that's been cooked, heated, or defrosted or warmed in a microwave actually changes the molecular structure of the food into something that we can show with blood tests the body sees as an antigen and doesn't like. So it's not the radiation coming out, it's what it does to the food. I won't own a microwave. I'm sure sometimes in a restaurant, some of my food might be microwaved, but it doesn't matter what you do, reheating or whatever, it actually changes the molecular structure of the food. So you're always better off cooking on a standard electric range or a gas range, and we do have radiation from the induction cooktops. When Weston Price traveled around the world, he found that a proportion of the societies, and not anywhere close to all, but a proportion, and we have all of his works digitized so we can search everything, we're fermenting their foods. And so we therefore know that it's not necessary, because a lot of these populations that were all in perfect health into old age never ate a fermented food in their life. However, when you ferment a food, the bacteria that are in the fermentation process are very often bacteria that are helpful to the human body. And so a lot of people, when they start eating fermented foods, actually improve their health, and others only improve their health if they use the specific bacteria that have been shown to do so, such as Acidophilus and Bifidus. So it varies. I would never call them harmful, but how much help they might be varies quite a bit, a lot more than people think. A lot of people will say, oh, all the traditional populations ate fermented foods, and we actually went through all of the works of the explorers to check it, and they didn't. But certainly some did. And for example, if somebody has an inability to eat cabbage, but when they eat sauerkraut that's been properly fermented because it's partly broken it down, then they eat cabbage. Well, okay, they can now eat a food they want to eat because it's helped. So it varies. No, because we are the variable. See, we are the variable. That's the problem. I consider that an optimal diet for most people is made up of a decent amount of whatever non-starchy vegetables you like. If any vegetable disagrees with you, if you go, I know broccoli is supposed to be good for you, but it gives me gas, then it's not good for you. Well, I can eat it in a stew when it's been sitting in the stew for an hour, but I can't eat it raw. Then only eat it cooked because your body can't deal with the fiber. So never disagree with your body. Your body says it doesn't like this, and some nutrition professional said it's good for you. They're wrong. So again, assuming it's the ones that don't disagree with you, in general, a really healthy diet for most people is a decent amount of different colors, because on our walls they're pigments, but in nature they're nutrients. Different colored vegetables. Usually cooked is easier to digest, with some good fats on it, some coconut oil, some extra virgin olive oil, some butter, whatever, and a portion of a good quality animal protein. If you need to have a starch, you could put a little bit of a starch in there, but we need fats. Vegetables have a lot of good things in them, and good quality animal proteins.
Is there a good fruit?
If you're going to eat fruit, the ones which are the least bad for you are the ones that have the most nutrients and the least sugar, and that haven't been hybridized to not be something your body knows what the hell it is. Which are those? The ones that are the same color inside and outside and don't have a lot of sugar. And what that is, predominantly, is all of the berries except strawberries. If you cut a strawberry in half, the outside is red, the inside is white. I want the berries where if you cut them in half with a really sharp knife, the inside is the same color as the outside. That's red, because those are nutrients. That colors. So that's raspberries, blackberries, elderberries, loganberries, and wild blueberries. You cut an organic blueberry in half, outside is purple, inside is light green to white. You cut a wild blueberry in half, inside is the same color as the outside. 300% more nutrients. Yes. Yes. The older we get, and of course that wouldn't be true if we never had fire and everything we ate all of our life was raw. But since we do, we end up taxing the body. So yes, I have a lot of people that do much better if I put them on digestive enzymes when they're for their meals. And some people do well without it, but very often. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, and the environmental working group has a specific, it's called Skin Deep, and it goes over which products have less poisons in them. Yep. Best thing I can do about water filters, because it'll give you more answers than I have time for, go to my website, go to the MP3 section. I just finished recently a lecture on waters, and go to the published articles section. I just completed about a 5-page article on water and water filtration, and that article is very complete. If you want a good vacuum cleaner, buy a Miele. There's only one out there where the HEPA is doing what it's supposed to. That's Miele, M-I-E-H-L-E. It's a German vacuum cleaner.
No vacuum cleaners that are bagless, because
Well, you don't even have to go that far. The only one that's a true HEPA that works is a Miele. So once you've done that, you don't have to discuss all the others. All the others that claim to be HEPA rated, when they test them, they're not. The seals are no good, and the dust particles are getting around the filter. Huge amounts of stuff. Yeah, the Miele is the best vacuum cleaner out there if you can afford it. Well, the only correlationship, which isn't really a correlationship, is they're both caused by poisons. I mean, that's the relationship. So it's not really a relationship between the diseases, but if all the autoimmune conditions, all the neurological conditions are caused by poisons, you could say they're all related, but the only way in which they're all related is similar to reactivity. So Doris Rapp, for example, who was an expert pediatrician, she's actually still alive. Her book is called Our Toxic World, A Wake-Up Call. Fabulous book. She would take a number of children that she already knew what their triggers were. So let's pick milk. And I drink a huge amount of milk. I drink 2 gallons a week. However, that's grass-fed, organic, whole, and raw. So she would take a group of kids, let's say 5 kids, where she knows their trigger, and most of the triggers were either wheat, sugar, or milk. Of course, not the kind of milk I'm talking about. And she would have a movie camera going, because this is a long time ago. We didn't have any video. This is a 35 millimeter movie camera. And she'd have this going on a time delay, and she'd have these kids sitting, and they'd be coloring a coloring book. And she'd say, okay, we just sit there. We take pictures of them, and then she goes around, anybody want a glass of milk? And she pours out a little bit of milk for all of them. They take a glass of milk, and they're still coloring. And again, time delay on the cameras. Within between 5 and 10 minutes, depending on the child, one of them, who was wide awake, is now totally asleep. One of them, who is wide awake and coloring in the lines, is now coloring like this. One of them, who was wide awake and coloring normally, is now running around the room, banging their head against a wall. And the other one is now running over and screaming and yelling at her mother or father that's there. 4 different reactions, same trigger, 4 different kids. So 3 different people exposed to the exact same pesticide or herbicide or whatever. One gets Parkinson's, one gets MS, one gets cancer from the defect in the immune system, one doesn't get any of those, but their memory starts to go 10 years earlier than it should have. So we can't associate that this always causes that, just that it's harmful, and we don't always know how it's going to harm.
So the precautionary principle that was...
Precautionary principle. If there's something that we know is harmful, the more you can stay away from it, the better. Unless you can get a really nice dentist that's willing to say that these were bad and going, and he can look or she can look at the reference material written by the manufacturer of the amalgam that says it should be replaced within 5 or 6 years, that they don't tell you. Otherwise, you can't. It cost me probably $20,000 to have all my dental stuff removed 20 years ago. Yeah, very hard.